The following is a paid advertisement. The views expressed are the sole responsibility of the advertiser.
Put the power back in your hands. This is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
Welcome to Behind the Law. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. I have a fantastic show lined up for you today. Here's where we're going to start. Is marijuana legal in Florida? It's a question that I think a lot of people don't have the answer to. Welcome in, as always, my beautiful co-host, Makaila Nichols. Makaila, how are you today?
I'm great.
So I'm a lawyer, of course.
And you are?
Well, sometimes, I am a lawyer, yes. But sometimes I feel like I maybe don't ask the right questions, because you have to understand the people at home are not lawyers generally, right? And sometimes I sort of know the answer and I don't think I ask the right ones. And that's why you're here. You're here to speak for the person at home.
Yes.
I got to
ask the real questions, you know?
I had to have a meeting with her father about this actually the other day to explain it.
Calling Steve out, nice.
Am I going to be in trouble?
No, I don't think so.
And in the second segment, we're going to talk all things family law, divorce, child custody, alimony. What's going on if you're having some family issues? What do you do? Great show in store. Here's what we're going to do. Quick break. When we return, is marijuana legal in Florida?
Having debt can leave you feeling helpless. I'm attorney Justin Clark. Filing for bankruptcy may give you the power to lower or even eliminate the payments that have you living paycheck to paycheck. Call me now for a free consultation or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your life.
Managing your investment property is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Sign up at GoRent123.com. 2. Let Greater Orlando Realty handle everything for you when it comes to managing your property, from qualifying tenants to collecting rent, processing maintenance requests, and everything in between. 3. Sit back, relax, and count all that money you're making. Earning passive income on your property is as easy as 1, 2, 3 with Greater Orlando Realty. Visit GoRent123.com today.
Welcome back to the show, and as promised, is marijuana legal? You've heard about this recreational marijuana, medicinal marijuana, but I think it's confusing, and it's different by state. You know, I mean, if you had to say right now, Makaila, do you think marijuana is legal in Florida or not? What do you think?
I think it's almost like decriminalized, maybe? Whatever that means, I don't know.
And I think a lot of people have those same questions, those same concerns. Who better to ask than our good friend Rajan Joshi? You are back here, Joshi Law Firm. It's great to have you as always, first
Thank
of all.
you. Thank you for having us.
You brought a friend, though, today. Who is this?
This is Samantha Angelostro. She is an attorney at my firm. She's been with me now for going on a year.
Wow.
In August.
She was actually one of the highest bar exam scores I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, modestly speaking, I was top 5 in the state when I took it. And when I interviewed with her, I've known her for a while. When I interviewed with her again, she told me her bar exam scores, and I was like, it's a no-brainer. You're hired. And she's been wonderful.
Now, let's say she was top 3. Would you have not hired her because you want to be the top, of course?
I mean, there's wiggle room over there. And having her is a huge asset for my clients and me.
Yeah, something about your firm, and I want to be very clear about this, because there are a lot of criminal defense lawyers out there, but a lot of them are like, we do DUI or misdemeanor. You're the real deal. I mean, you handle all the way up to murder trials. Tell me a little bit about the firm.
Well, I mean, I've been practicing for 22 years, and have handled every type of case, from the smallest possession cases up to first-degree murder, federal cases, racketeering cases, and there's no case that's too small for our firm or too big. Yeah. We accept people who are at their times of need, and we have a full service law firm with attorneys who do federal practice, attorneys who do different areas, and we work together as a team. And we try to get it's all about the client. It's all about getting the best result possible.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to the question of the day then, because I do think it's confusing. I mean, you work in the industry, so you know the answer, but I think a lot of people at home do not know the answer to this. They hear news items about it, they hear rumors about it. In Florida, is marijuana legal?
The short answer is no, without a prescription and a medical marijuana card. The same way as possessing any type of painkillers is illegal and a crime if you don't have a prescription. And there are certain with a medical marijuana card, it doesn't mean you can just free for all, use marijuana wherever you want. You know, you can't use it in public places. It's got to be in the specific container that you get it from. You can't, transport it across state lines. And Samantha, I mean, I think you can agree. There's some other restrictions like selling and.
Right, you definitely can't be getting it from your dispensary and then putting it into plastic bags and giving it to your friends.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I would think not. Wow.
Yeah, and you also can't be driving after you've smoked, or sitting in your car driving, even if you're not physically driving. So there's still restrictions on what you can do with it once you obtain it legally.
I mean, I think it's safe to say as we walk around Central Florida, especially downtown Orlando, we're just walking down the sidewalk, we're smelling it more. Have you noticed that? But what you're telling me is even with a prescription, you still can't just sit outside the local 7-Eleven and get high.
Absolutely not. Just like you can't, go in a public place and drink beer, an open container. There's laws prohibiting it. And marijuana is, I think it's going to get a little bit more liberal as time goes on, like other states. But I think Florida's just giving it, a little test drive right now. And then, as things go on, I think it's going to be decriminalized a lot more.
I know every situation is a little bit different, but let's say I'm driving down the street right now, get pulled over for speeding, and I have some weed in my car. I don't have a prescription for it. Are you finding officers taking people to jail for marijuana now, or is it mostly a ticket? What are they doing?
You're seeing a lot less of people getting arrested for marijuana, but it's going to depend on the circumstances. So for the example you just gave, if your vehicle smells like marijuana, they still have the probable cause to be able to search your vehicle and find that marijuana. Yeah. So if it's your medical marijuana, then no, you're likely not going to jail. And then the officers also in certain counties have the option to issue you a citation for those type of things or a notice to appear. So you might be showing up to court, but you might not be going to jail.
So let's say I do have my medical marijuana card, okay? And I'm sitting at home and I'm smoking a ton of weed because glaucoma or whatever, whatever my reasoning is for having the medical marijuana card. I decide it's time to go get Arby's. I'm driving down the street to get Arby's. I know I smell like weed, but I have my card. Can I do that?
Technically not, just like possessing alcohol is not a crime if you're over 21, but if you drink to the extent you're impaired, and going to Arby's is a dead giveaway, especially if it's 2 in the morning.
It's better to invest in Uber Eats at that point, I think, as opposed to having to get charged with a crime, of course. Yeah. And I think it is important, and I want you to understand this at home. If you or anyone that you know, or especially your loved ones, have been charged with any type of crime, I think it's important for you to immediately seek legal counsel. There's really no one better out there, in my opinion, than the Joshi Law Firm, and I would do it now. Even if you're already sort of involved in the case, maybe you already have a public defender, things can get really serious in criminal law very quickly. And you hear about some cases that take 3, 4, or 5 years. When it comes to criminal law, those cases go a lot faster too, and they're not afraid to take you to trial. They will. Having strong criminal defense attorneys on your side can be the difference in night and day in the resolution of your case. I want you to call the Joshi Law Firm right now. I put the number on the screen. Call 321-282-1055. We will connect you with them immediately. And that is, again, you were both public defenders.
I was a prosecutor.
Oh, you were a prosecutor. I'm sorry. Prosecutor, public defender, but so you know all about the public defender's office. And a lot of times they're doing God's work there. Yeah. But they're doing God's work at 200 cases at a time or so. Our public defenders are a little bit overwhelmed. What is the difference if I'm charged with a crime going with the public defender's office versus hiring a private attorney like you?
Well, the one thing we do is we make sure we have, the staff available to handle all the client's needs. Phone calls are returned, emails are returned, and if one attorney's in trial, there's another attorney. You've got second string quarterbacks, you've got backup, and you got a mixed variety of attorneys handling with different backgrounds: prosecutors, public defenders, federal prosecutors, handling the case, and we strategize it and we work it in a team basis. And sometimes we actually have different strategies. Like she'll go in and maybe try and talk to the prosecutor and negotiate diplomatically. And if it doesn't work, then I come in aggressively and we'll force the case to trial. So there's different aspects as to how we go about handling each case, and each case is individual. Sure. So there's no one strategy that works across the board. It's per client and per case.
The analogy that I have is, we talk real estate sometimes here, and when you buy a house, it's the biggest investment of your lifetime. You want to make sure you get it right. Charged with a crime, this is one of the biggest investments of your lifetime as well. We're talking about your liberty. We're talking about your freedom. This is important stuff. This is, dare I say, more important than buying a house at sometimes.
Absolutely, and I've seen cases where, a person went with another attorney, and then all of a sudden they got a criminal record. They may not have gone to jail, they may not have gone to prison, but it's affecting the rest of their life. Sometimes a person can be charged with a sex offense and be a sex offender, and that follows them wherever they go. And had they had the right aggressive representation, the result would have been different.
Yeah.
I mean, I can look at a case and almost immediately, as I look at that case, I almost can predict where the case is going to go. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but
sure.
Based on experience and just based on, what I can see, I can predict which direction it's going to go, which cases are going to go to trial, and which cases are going to get dropped.
And of course, marijuana is not the only drug out there, and I keep hearing about other states decriminalizing even more potent drugs, I guess. Still a criminal offense here, but there's some of these things where you can have a mandatory minimum sentence of a lot of years, and I think when you talk about the heroin or these pills, what's going on in that world now?
With trafficking offenses, if you have a certain amount of, depending on the drug, you're going to have minimum mandatory sentences where, say, it's 5 years, 15 years, just for possessing it. So
really?
The penalties are going to be a lot harsher, and that minimum mandatory sentence is going to take a lot of the power out of your hands at the time when you first start out your case.
Right.
Because if you were to go to trial and you're convicted of possessing those drugs, then the judge has to sentence you to the required minimum mandatory.
And the one thing with these trafficking cases, there's tiers. You may start off at like 3, go to 7, go to 15, and it depends on the weight, and it's the total weight. So sometimes a person, may be getting cocaine, and it may be cut with a lot of things,
Sure.
Creatine, baby laxatives, and all these other things. But all that stuff, the weight, it's the total weight, and it's also with like these pain pills. It's so unfair. A person can have a pain pill of Oxycontin, which is 30 milligrams, and it's so small, but then they get Lortabs, which is like maybe 5 milligrams of really the narcotics, and the rest is like Tylenol, and that weighs more. And one pill bottle can get them, trafficking amounts, whereas, 100 pills of the more potent stuff won't.
And real quick, last question. Let's say that I'm having back pain. I don't want to go to the doctor because I don't like doctors. And my dad also has back pain, and he has some Oxycontin. He's like, just take a few of these. They're going to be great. I'm driving down the street. He gave me 5 or 6. Could that be a crime?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If the prescription's not in your name, I wouldn't walk around with it.
Unbelievable. Samantha, what a pleasure it was to meet you. Hope you come back soon. And Rajan, we talked earlier, I think next week you're going to be here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the whole stand your ground law. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Thank you.
You did awesome as always. Look, let me tell you something. You've been charged with a crime. A loved one has been charged with a crime. This is a very important time in your lifetime, I assure you. Call my good friends over at the Joshi Law Firm. Quick break. When we return, is it cheaper to keep her, or is it cheaper to keep him? After this quick break, Behind the Law continues. Does student loan debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark & Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your monthly payments. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life.
Finding the perfect place to rent is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Sign up at GoRent123.com. 2. Let Greater Orlando Realty find the perfect place for you to live and help you manage all of your rental needs. From convenient, secure online rent payments to handling all of your maintenance requests and everything in between. 3. Sit back and relax. Finding the perfect place to rent is as easy as 1, 2, 3 with Greater Orlando Realty. Visit GoRent123.com today.
Welcome back. And look, they were giving me grief during the break, but I want to be very clear. We teased this last segment by saying, is it cheaper to keep her or him? Was that cringy, as you would say?
I mean, it rhymes with cheaper to keep her, so I didn't hate it.
All right, so it wasn't not cringy.
No,
right.
Only slightly cringy. Now that you're bringing attention to it, cringe.
But it leads me to the question, okay? Divorce. How long does divorce take? How expensive is it? alimony. Is there permanent alimony? There's so many questions when it comes to family law in Florida. I'm happy to have Danielle Downer here. It's great to meet you. Downer Law Firm, how are you?
Nice. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So let's talk about divorce. I don't know if the numbers are still the same as like 50% of couples or marriages end in divorce, something like that. Is that about right still?
The numbers are fluctuating a little bit because of quarantine.
Yeah, up or
and
down?
COVID. They've kind of gone back and forth.
Oh, really?
So now, and it's a hot girl summer, so everybody's out now.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're seeing them spike a little bit higher now than we did during quarantine. But quarantine people kind of connected more as a family.
Got it. So a divorce case, how long do they typically last? Is this like a years-long process? Is it quick? What goes on?
There's so many factors to determine how quickly or how long it's going to take. A lot of it is based off of how much do you guys get along? How much can we agree to things just straight off the bat? Versus how much do you hate each other and do you want to argue over every little single thing? It's going to take a little bit longer.
Right.
How much actual stuff you have in common? Do you have children? Things like that all come into place.
And what are the things that we typically fight over?
Well, I mean,
everything.
Married people.
The lamp.
Married people can fight over everything, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But you're looking at, children, if there's children involved, who gets the children for more of the time.
Right.
You're looking at do you guys have a house and who wants the house and how are you going to split the house and one person doesn't want the house sold. You're looking at just general assets that you have together. So once you get married in Florida, I think a lot of people are under the disillusion that if I get married and I have a separate bank account and it's in my name and my name only, it's mine. And that's not how that works.
No.
So the minute you get married, unless you have a premarital agreement or you get a prenuptial agreement thereafter, everything that you bring in gets thrown in the marital pot. And then what Florida does is they split that pot right in half. That's essentially what they try to do for equitable distribution. And so a lot of people fight over, I 401k, I worked there my entire life. I've worked there for 30 years. I don't want to give her a part of my 401k. I don't want to give him a part of my 401k. But as soon as you get married and you don't have anything that says that doesn't fall into the marital pot, it does.
Yeah, see, that's surprising to me in some ways. So let's say that you come into the marriage and the wife has $1 million in the bank account, the husband has $100 in the bank account, and then we get divorced 6 months later.
Right.
We're splitting up?
You're not splitting anything that you had prior to as long as you haven't commingled it. So if wife has $1 million in the bank account and husband has $100,000 in the bank account or $100, and you guys open a joint account and put both of their funds in there, and now it's commingled, and now you're running into issues and running into problems.
Is that right?
Yes.
Generally, if you keep it separated, you're not going to split it up?
If you keep it separate, but it has to be what you acquired prior to the marriage, right?
Yeah,
so anything you acquire after. So if wife has $1 million in her bank account and she gains, some significant interest after she gets married, that interest is now marital property.
A lot of people screenshotting their bank accounts the day before the wedding, huh?
Yeah, like listen, are you saying what you're saying is true?
Exactly.
So I've never been married, but do you suggest, when I do get married, I do the whole prenup thing, or is that kind of we might get divorced kind of thing?
I pay my car insurance. I never ever expect to get into a crash, but I still do it. And so a lot of people will say, well, we don't need a premarital agreement because we're never going to get a divorce. Well, you don't know what the future holds. It's better to make those decisions while you guys are in good standing versus later down the road when you guys are not. Yeah. And even if you never use it, you never use it. You know what I mean? But if you do, then at least you guys can be fair with each other.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I highly, highly recommend a premarital agreement.
And relatively inexpensive. I mean, if someone's watching at home right now, they are thinking about getting married, it's not a super expensive process either, is it?
No. To get a premarital agreement, you're gonna spend way more on a divorce without a premarital agreement than you will with a divorce with one. So you'll save yourself some money.
Obviously, for maybe even the majority of couples out there who are going through a divorce, it's a very emotional time.
Right.
Sometimes for one person, sometimes for both. The divorce is inevitably going to be emotional. And, when these emotions are involved, sometimes we might be a little bit irrational. And I've seen so many instances where a couple who didn't really have a lot of assets, literally by the time they paid all of their lawyers because they wanted to fight over the lamp in the living room, they have nothing left. I mean, what is your advice for someone going through a divorce and how to sort of guard their emotions?
Yeah, so you have to take a step back, you have to take a breath, you have to figure out what the actual issues are. And it can't be that he cheated or she cheated on you with your best friend, right? And so you want to stick it to them as much as possible. It needs to be based in reality, because in the long run, you end up just spinning your own wheels and spending more and more money when you didn't need to. You know, it can make a very simple divorce into something that, you know, lasts 2 years, and you guys have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on attorney fees that you didn't need to.
Well, she's the one that cheated on me. I'm not giving her anything. This divorce is her fault. That's how it works, right?
Florida doesn't care.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Florida doesn't care. Your judge does not care. Florida's a no-fault state, which means the person, your significant other, could be a cheater McCheater. They could cheat every single day with a million people. They could be Nick Cannon of your life, right? Does not matter. They do not care. So cheating is not a factor when it comes to equitable distribution of your assets. Or time sharing.
Yeah, I got to tell you, if you're going through a divorce or a custody battle and issues with alimony or child support, I'd give Danielle a call. The phone number's on the screen. It's 321-282-1055. Call that number right now, and you'll be talking to her in the next 5 or 10 minutes, I assure you, and she'll be happy to do it, happy to talk about any issue that you may have. And let's get to alimony, because it's been in the news a lot over the last year. Permanent alimony versus non-permanent alimony. Can you help us understand what alimony really is?
Sure, alimony, and there's different types of alimony. So there's alimony to kind of just get that person up to speed. So if she was a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, and they've been working and using the other person's income this whole time, kind of just cutting them completely off is going to put them in a negative. It's going to put them in a bad situation, and that's not what you guys agreed to in your marriage, right? Yeah. And so we don't want there to be a huge jump off or drop off for that person. And so what we'll look at is alimony in terms of how can we help support the person who might need a little bit extra help. But it really, really, really depends, honestly, on the length of your marriage, right? So when we start talking about like permanent alimony, where you're getting it for a long time, then you're really looking at like a 20-year marriage. You're looking at a longer marriage. You know, if we're talking about 2 or 3 years or anything under 5, you're looking at less and less chance of actual alimony.
Got it. Now,
if you're not married but like have children, is alimony a thing?
Nope, alimony only applies to marriages. It only applies to married people, and there's no common law marriage in Florida, so you have to actually have done the deal.
Well, I heard in New York, if you're with someone for 10 years living in the same house, you're considered married. Is that not how it is here?
I don't know about New York law, but in Florida law, you have to actually have a legitimate marriage for it to, for you to even get alimony. So, no.
Now, how do we split up time with the kids? Time sharing. How do we determine that?
So Florida did a little switcheroo not too long ago, where we hear the term custody a lot. Custody, custody, custody. And most states still use that word custody. But in Florida, they actually broke it down. They have parental responsibility and they have time sharing. And so custody's kind of been broken down into 2 separate things. So parental responsibility is your ability to make major life decisions for your children, right? Do they get the braces? Do they get that certain type of surgery, right? Do they go to certain types of schools? Those are parental responsibility. The presumption in Florida is 50-50. Shared parental responsibility, which means both parents have an equal say. And then you have time sharing. That's the actual time you get to spend with your kids, right? The dropping off, picking up, overnights, that kind of thing. And there's no actual presumption there.
Right. Hey, what normally happens? I know it varies, but does the judge want to go 50-50 or?
You know, it really depends. Certain judges do like to be more on the 50-50 mark, but in Florida, the statute does not require that. And so what they'll look at, what I always say is, there's this preconception that women are always favored in these kind of scenarios. You know, like women they always get all the time sharing. It's not. The primary caregiver, though, that's one of those assessments that the judge is going to look at. So who has raised the children primarily for the length length of their life. That is a huge factor. And so is it the father, is it the mother? But those are all factors. But in terms of time sharing, it's hard to say because each judge is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But they do look at the factors in terms of who spends the most time, what's in the best interest of the child, what the child knows the most, kind of thing.
Danielle Downer, going to be a mother soon too, a little girl.
I am. I'm going to be a mom of 2 girls.
Oh my goodness.
It's going to be mass mayhem.
Well, I know you're going to do a great job, and I know you do a great job for your clients and really care, which is half the
absolutely.
battle. And if you're going through any sort of divorce, child custody battle, anything when it comes to family law, I'd love for you to give Danielle a call. Phone number on the screen. If you call right now, you'll talk to her in 5 minutes. One last quick break. When we return, what did Makaila and I learn?
Free yourself of the stress of investment property management. Visit GoRent123.com today.
Having debt can leave you feeling helpless. I'm attorney Justin Clark. Filing for bankruptcy may give you the power to lower or even eliminate the payments that have you living paycheck to paycheck. Call me now for a free consultation or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your life.
Wrapping up here on a Saturday, Makaila, I learned so much today, and I always know it's a great show, and I love doing the show, and I see our amazing production team here very engaged. I can see them watching. But what did you learn today?
I learned to really just never do drugs. I don't, but I really, have no intention to. And I think the alimony thing is really interesting in the state of Florida.
Yep. I mean, I learned that, look, marijuana is not decriminalized here. In a lot of states, marijuana is completely legal, recreational, whatever. You certainly still can't drive. I mean, it's like driving drunk. They can pull you over for that, take you to jail for driving while impaired. And you definitely need a medical marijuana card if you're going to indulge.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs? That's
don't do drugs.
That's the theme of the day. Don't do drugs. Huh?
Don't do drugs.
Thank you to the Joshi Law Firm and Danielle Downer. They did an amazing job. As always, time to sign off. Great job as always, Makaila.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week again for more Behind the Law. It's been a really weird time for landlords over the last couple of years. Tenants have been a little bit angry. I think if you're a landlord, you need a property manager. The best one I know is Greg Mann. He happens to be here with me today. Greg, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
So let's say I'm a landlord and I'm trying to make the decision. Do I want to handle this myself or hire someone like you who is a property manager who does it all? What goes into that decision? Why hire a property manager?
Well, it's quite simple. It's one of your biggest assets. And let me ask you a question. If you want heart surgery, do you employ a brain surgeon?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So employ a property manager. It's very difficult. It's complicated. It can be complex. You can be sued. You can leave yourself wide open for many, many things. We know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it.
What do you do for me as my property manager?
Well, I'll make sure your property's rented, maintained, kept clean, and re-rented, and make sure you get your money.
And then monthly, some things can come up. Maybe something goes wrong. You're right here to solve all those problems between you and the tenant, or between you and anything that happens.
Yeah, we're your cushion. So, problem at the house, tenant calls us, they don't call you. You're on vacation enjoying yourself, we fix whatever problem it is.
How do your relationships with your vendors work, and how does that help me as my property manager?
We have, every vendor is licensed and insured. Every vendor has a 30-day pay cycle, so I don't need money up front from you. And they work very, very closely with us. We've used them for years.
Yeah. If you are a landlord, you have rental properties, do yourself a favor. Call Greg Mann right now. Do not do this on your own.
The proceeding was a paid advertisement. The views expressed were the sole responsibility of the advertiser.